Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Atlanta, it's time for Charitable Georgia. Brought to you by Bees Charitable Pursuits and Resources. We put the fun in fundraising. For more information, go to beescharitablepursuits.com. That's BEES charitablepursuits.com. Now, here's your host, Brian Pruitt.
Good Fabulous Friday. It's another Fabulous Friday morning, and we've got three more fabulous guests. Just a little bit of housekeeping. We will not be here next week on Black Friday because the studio front door will be locked and I can't get in. So there will be no show. So everybody can go shopping and get up early. Hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. So, like I said, we got three more fabulous guests this morning. If this is the first time listening to Charitable Georgia, this is all about positive things happening in your community. And we are going to get started this morning with Miss Kimberly Brenowitz from Pause for Life. I said that right, didn't I?
You did it, indeed, yes.
Awesome. I have to pat myself on the back when I say the right word because sometimes I mess them up. So, well, first of all, you have an accent. Where's your accent from?
All right. I was born in Scotland in the United Kingdom.
Awesome.
Yes. Unfortunately, too many years in the United States have sort of kind of put a tinge on it, though.
Well, it's good to me. I like that. I like it. So, you guys, like I said, you're from Pause for Life, which we'll get into for a second. But if you don't mind, share a little bit more about your background and how you got into that, and then we'll talk about what you guys do.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I've always had animals, German shepherds, horses throughout my entire life. And when I graduated and I came over to the United States for a job, I ended up starting a riding school, and I got a stables in Sarasota, Florida. And started teaching down there, training horses, training dogs. My niece has cerebral palsy, so I would have her friends and family come out, and we would do horse riding trails with them. So I got more and more involved in dealing with those with disabilities, and decided that this is something that I really would like to get into more, and went to school, got all my designations. I had to do it over a period of time because I had to, of course, keep working to be able to pay to do that. And then when my husband and I relocated to Atlanta, Georgia, I decided to make this a full-time commitment and opened up a 501c3 nonprofit and have been training service animals since then.
Awesome. Well, I have a sister in Sarasota, so it's really kind of muggy down there.
Yeah, I love it. I'd like to go back, but my husband won't go back to Florida.
No, well, they do have soft beaches. I'll give them that. It's a nice soft beach.
Nice. It's changed a lot over the years, though. So.
Yes. So you guys just train dogs, or you have other animals that you train?
Okay. So we actually, for our service animals, there are only two animals that are allowed under federal law. One is, of course, dogs, and the other one is miniature horses. We also do therapy dogs, and they can be any kind of dog as a family pet or a dog that's trained to go into nursing homes and children's hospitals. And then the other one we work on is emotional support animals. That can be basically most, 12 or 13 different types of animals, bunnies, guinea pigs, llamas, that can be somebody's own emotional support, but doesn't get the full aspect of service dogs.
I've seen a video of supposedly an alligator with somebody's support animal. I don't know that I would trust that.
I don't know either. I've had peacocks and I've had snakes and so no, I think it has to have feet.
Yes. Well, I've got a friend. He's Daniel Lathrop. He was on the show. He's actually a veteran and owns 1041 Canine Dog Training and stuff. And he used to work for TCA down in Florida.
Yes.
And he was talking about the animals that would come through there that were just. He had I think he told me there was a ferret.
Yes.
And there was emotional support animal. I'm like. And those guys stink. I had a roommate that had one of those. They stink all the time. So, do you have a specific animal that's your favorite?
German Shepherd has to be my dog of choice.
Yeah, and why is that?
I love them. I don't know. I mean, I've had German Shepherds in my family since I was 2 years old, and they're just incredibly smart and intelligent dogs. That's just for me, but I mean, all dogs are absolutely wonderful and beautiful. It doesn't matter what breed they are or what type they are. They all have their own individual personalities. So basically train any type of dog to be a service dog, depending on what the disability needs are.
So I didn't get to actually talk to you and meet you in person at the golf tournament that Buffy and Matt did, and that's where I met all three of you. And, well, I met Buffy before then, but
right.
But my favorite dog that you have was Rufus.
Oh, Rufus, yes.
Rufus was I got pictures, him giving hugs to a lot of people. That's just awesome. Tell us about Rufus.
Yeah, so Rufus is a Great Pyrenees poodle mix, and he's probably about 120 pounds right now. He's about the size of a miniature horse, and I actually have his sister, Jojo. So both of them are very similar. They're both about the same type of height, except she has more of the curvy female look, and he has more of the guy dog, long leg, long body look. But yes, they're both in training to become service animals. And Rufus is just, I've definitely got to put a blog out for him because he's just that typical large, bobble-headed, black and white mop that is absolutely just, he's loved.
Well, and like I said, I mean, he was literally giving hugs. Like he was up on his hind feet, paws on the shoulders.
Yep.
And that was just really cool.
So his trick for the paws on the shoulders is basically he's doing pressure point therapy. So by standing up and putting his paws over your shoulders, he has to have his elbows at one side of the front of your shoulders and his wrists at the other side so that he's doing pressure point therapy to help you.
Oh, wow.
So that's the reason why we teach the hug. One, to make you feel good. And the other one is because he's actually helping you, your body and your mental state of mind as well. So this is some of the things that his task trained for.
That's awesome. Well, I got to tell you, I had an ex-girlfriend who had a puppy Australian shepherd.
Oh, nice.
And things were starting to go bad with us, and I was at her house while she was at work, still taking care of the dogs when things started to go bad.
Yeah.
And I was in the living room crying, sitting on the couch, and this puppy was a puppy, like a puppy.
Yeah.
He came over and gave me a hug. Like he was just automatically knew there was something
that you
wrong.
needed something.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That was awesome. So
they're so intuitive. I mean, they're incredible. I mean, where else, can you get an animal that loves you unconditionally, will listen to everything that you have to say and not contradict you, and can detect all of your medical disabilities and try and help you, tell you about it, and then give you the love for it afterwards. I mean, it's just amazing.
We have a veteran that comes to our church who has a golden noodle.
Oh, nice.
And he detects when he's about ready to have a seizure.
Yes.
It's pretty awesome. So
that's a good one to work with.
We were talking a little earlier about the miniature horses and stuff like that. So how is it different training those versus the dogs?
Actual fact, horses can detect muscle movement in a human a little bit faster than dogs can, because dogs detect, first of all, by muscle movement and then by, different things going on in scent, whereas horses are like a few seconds ahead of that. So they are actually more in tune with the human at that early initial stage. They're just the same thing. They're just as loving. They can be housebroken. They're like 28 inches or 29 inches at the height. And for somebody who has mobility, for example, the general life of a miniature horse is like 30 years or 35 years, whereas the life of a large Great Dane or something is probably 8 to 10 years. So for somebody who has chronic mobility issues, sometimes it's easier to get an animal that's going to live longer to be able to help them than to have to go through 2 or 3 dogs versus one miniature horse. It's just that people they see a miniature horse on an airplane and they just go nuts. So a miniature horse in a grocery store. And it's just something that you don't see very often, I think, because people with disabilities that have to take their animals, either their dog or their miniature horse with them, it just makes you stand out from the crowd. So I think most people choose the dog instead of the horse, and the horse probably would actually benefit more in a mobility situation.
Well, it's definitely a conversation starter too. I'd walk up to somebody and say, "Can I pet your horse?"
Exactly.
So do you guys solely work with veterans, or do you work with other individuals?
No, we work with veterans, first responders, active duty, and all the others in between. So, and our youngest is 3 months, and our oldest has been 87.
Wow.
As far as those that we have provided and are actually currently working with, as far as service dogs or therapy dogs, but mostly service.
So how do you determine which animal is best for an individual?
Okay. So that's a really good question. The thing is, for example, if your goal is that you want to run a marathon, the last thing that we're going to do is match you up with a dog breed that you don't like, or a dog that can do 25 feet and then collapse because you're so exhausted, like a mastiff or something. Mastiffs aren't meant to run. They're meant to pull, and they're meant to be dragging something and holding you up. So we would place you more with a dog that is like a husky or something that's going to be able to keep you up. We did have one gentleman who was active duty. He got involved in an accident. He was in hospital at Grady for numerous times, and we provided him with an American dog, Native Indian dog, and a big dog. meant to drag things around and help the Indians when they were moving their wigwams and stuff like that, going back many, many years. And because they felt that he was going to end up in a wheelchair, not being able to use his legs because of the travesty that had happened to him. And it ended up that bringing the dog to him and working with him through his therapy sessions at Grady and everything else, he just rallied from a person that was given a sentence that he may never walk or live again to being able to say, I have something to live for. And he then started working with his dog, and in about 6 or 7 months, he actually ended up walking out of Grady with his service animal at that time, saying goodbye to everybody. And he went into rehab for a while. Rehab told him, you're doing so well, you don't need to do it. So he actually went back into active duty. And at that point in time, we said, you are doing so well that this dog is not the right match for you anymore. So we are going to trade out this big dog for somebody else who needs a mobility dog. And we're going to give you a dog that's going to give you a challenge, going to make you be better than what you are right now. So we ended up getting him a Malamute, who was definitely full of energy. And we went and we met him, and he was 8 weeks old at the time, and it was a love connection. They just fell in love together. And so actually fact, that dog and he were back on active duty. And they've been on tour. They've done their, the process. They were down on the wall. They've done a whole bunch of things. And, he and his dog can run up and down Stone Mountain.
Wow.
It's just incredible from the beginning to the end of this young man's life. And he was like 20 when it happened. So it's just, an incredible story of putting the right match with the right person. And just because you have a dog to start off with doesn't mean that, in 5 years, where do you see yourself being? So that's one of our challenges when we match you. What type of breed do you see yourself being attached to by the umbilical cord for the next 10 to 12 years of your life? And where do you see yourself wanting to be? So right now you're in this position. Where do you want to be? Do you want to be, go out and go and swim? Do you want to go out and, or do you want to stay home and just play video games? What is it that your goal is? And we want to try and help you reach that goal using your dog to be able to help you get out the door, do the work that you need to get done to achieve what you want to do at the ultimate end of all of it. So yeah, it's a great match process.
Are there certain breeds that you can't work with, or can you work with all and train all the breeds?
Yeah, you can work with most breeds. Of course, some are more stubborn than others. For us, we want to work with dogs that have that stubbornness because we need them to do deliberate disobedience, which means if you tell your dog to go and stay in that corner and don't budge till I need you or, tell you to do something else, we want to make sure that dog's going to stay there and is not going to move unless there's something going on with his handler, his human, in which case he would be deliberately disobedient and he would leave that order to let you know that, hey, I'm going to show you a task because I'm telling you something's going to happen, or you're going to have a seizure, or you're going to have, a diabetic low. So any life-saving task the dog has been trained to do, that's the reason why the dog will disobey. So it has to be really critical, and the dog has to know that this is what I need to do. So most dogs, we'll go ahead and do that with a lot of training, but that's why it's so important when you're first working with the animals is to make sure that you pick the right pick. So here's an example. For example, if you're going to find a puppy or a dog for someone who's a paraplegic, and so you go and you look at a litter of puppies like golden doodles or Labradors or whatever, and you take each one of the puppies individually in the litter, and you take a piece of paper and you scrabble it up into a ball, and you throw it across the floor. You don't want to take the puppy that runs in the opposite direction. You want to take the puppy that runs towards the crumpled piece of paper, picks it up and brings it back to you, because that paraplegic or that quadriplegic is going to need a dog that will pick up the remote or pick up a card on the floor or go and get your water out of the fridge. So the abilities are at that age, and we start doing that at about 4 weeks. You can't do much at 4 weeks, but we have a general idea, and it's about 7 or 8 weeks of that puppy's age that we think, okay, we've gone through the litter. This is the type of breed that this individual wants. So we have a choice. Is there nobody in the litter that's going to be the right match? Then we wait for the next litter or we find another one. If there is a good match in there, then we'll take that pup. We'll work with that pup for a while. If the pup is still being consistent, then we put the two together and we train them together from that point on for the rest of the working life of that dog.
Are there age groups? I mean, you mentioned puppies. Do the dogs get into a certain age where you can't train them?
You can always teach an old dog new tricks.
There you go. There you go.
You can always do it. For service animals, so many people think that, here you have this dog, he's 3 years old, he's got his public access test, and he's tasking under federal law. And that's the stop. Here's the dog. This is where I'm at. But the problem is disabilities don't change. Disabilities keep moving and they alter, and medicine changes and lifestyles change. And so we're with that dog when we place that puppy with you, and we're available 24/7 for that individual. That dog is going to change. So they need to go back and they need to do refreshers. They need to add more things. If they change medication, then that changes the scent, because whatever you put into your body, you smell like. And so the dog has to be tweaked a little bit to be able to keep going on and functioning to the best of their ability for their handler.
Well, you know, we were talking. Reason I was asking about the breeds is because there's certain breeds out there, mainly a pit bull, that always get the bad rap, and it's because people will train them to do what they're not supposed to do.
It's the human in that element, as far as that's concerned. But I mean, we've got some great pit bulls and bully breeds in our program, and they're absolute marshmallows. So, you know, it's a stigma, and just like Rottweilers, German Shepherds, Dobermans. I mean, I've had all of those dogs at one point in my life. And, you know, it's all a matter of how you handle them, what you give them. You know, if it's the same thing with children. If you beat your kid, you're going to have a kid that beats other kids. So, you know, if you beat your dog, you're going to have a dog that's antagonistic, and it's just a rough round circle. So love always says a lot.
So, what does it look like? Is there different trainings? Well, first of all, before I ask that question, do you, on the service animals, is there anything you have to do to, as Daniel says, he trains the humans. Do you guys have to also train the individuals to work with the service dogs?
Yeah. So, you know, it's one of these things is that when we match the pup and we place them with the individual, the young adult dog with the individual, the two of them will be in training with us forever. Okay, until the working life of the dog, you know, is no longer, and we either replace with another dog or they don't need another dog anymore. But yes, I mean, the dogs are the easy part. It's the human that sometimes causes the problems to get them trained to be able to work with the dog. Because by the time our dogs are ready to go out and, you know, work in the big bad world with them, they have the capacity of problem solving of a 5-year-old child. And so it's the humans that have to be kept to be consistent. It's the humans that have to know what to look for in their dog. And that comes from, as far as we're concerned, that's one reason why we place our pups or our young adult dogs with an individual, because we want them to each learn their own body language. We want them to be able to say, like, if I place a dog with you, then tell me in 2 weeks' time when you know that dog needs to go to the bathroom. It's because you've watched that dog and you know the telltale signs and you can read the body language. If you can't tell me at that period of time, whether it's 5 minutes after they finish eating or it's 2 hours after they finish eating, you and the dog are not living in a good environment together. You're not functioning together well. So it's a case of you have to keep, you know, pay attention to your dog, and your dog will be contingent, you know, paying attention to you. The dog is the easy part. It's, you know, it's the human and them that have to interact together, which takes the time. So yeah, he's definitely correct.
Is the training different for the animals on different types of service for the service animals versus like seeing eye dog or knowing when there's a seizure about to happen or anything like that?
We actually in Paws for Life USA don't train for somebody who's totally blind. I can, but it's something that I prefer not to do because it's such a, you know, a different dedicated science, because the human and the dog is basically the human who is blind is the one that is directing the dog. Whereas in unseen disabilities, which is what I deal with an awful lot, it's a case of a different type of training, because even though I incorporate an awful lot of the guide dog stuff by having the dogs look up to make sure there's no overhanging branch, or, you know, looking down on the floor to make sure there's nothing that, you know, a curb that they don't have to trip over. We incorporate all that type of training into what we do for our regular service dogs. I mean, they do everything. I mean, you know, we teach them to do a whole bunch of things so that there's no surprises. And it's always a case of the what if I'm out here and my dog doesn't do this? Well, we want the dog and the human to know what to do in any given circumstance. So we just work them through every single proceed that we can think of to get them to work as a good team, you know, to be able to get them to fly on an airplane and feel, you know, that they've been there, they can do that by themselves. To get them to go to a Braves game so that they can go to the game and know what to expect, that the dog doesn't freak out with the fireworks and all the noise. To go to anywhere, go to a restaurant and not eat the food off the floor. So that the handler doesn't have to worry about the dog, you know, doing this kind of thing. So it's an ongoing process that they have to go through everything. And that's guide dog as well as, you know, other service dogs.
It's funny you mentioned the food on the floor, because when we were at the golf tournament, I brought my assistant Lauren with me, and she was helping the check-in, and one of your other folks was there with a puppy golden retriever.
Oh, yeah.
And she was laying next to Lauren, and Lauren didn't realize it, and she laid her chicken biscuit right down by the dog, and the dog never touched it.
Yeah, that's impressive.
That's a very impressive.
Good.
And he's and like I said, this was a puppy.
Yes.
So, how does the training look like for the emotional support versus the other?
Yeah, so emotional support actually, basically, it still requires a doctor to say, yes, you need an emotional support animal. And that is basically to give somebody comfort and be able to sit in their lap or be next to them so that it can release those endorphins in their brain to make them feel good. The dog actually doesn't do any tasking, and the dog doesn't have the same rights of a service animal to go anywhere. So with service dogs, they have the right to go everywhere the general public's allowed to go, except for some sterile environments, churches, and private property. Same thing, with emotional support animals. The only difference that they now have, they used to be able to fly. Now that a couple of years ago was taken away from them. But now the only thing they can do is they can go and stay in an apartment complex or rent a house that has a no dog policy. And then they can be given the accommodation to go there. But that's where their rights end. Otherwise, service dogs, they should have the right to go everywhere, even to, into an Airbnb or something else that says no dogs.
Right.
There's still a lot of people that want to try and, say that and deny that to somebody. But yeah, the law says they're allowed to have them there. So
is there a certain, when we're talking about the training aspect of it, do you do the same kind of training for that emotional support that you would do for so the other kind as far as
emotional support is just working with them. In our program, what we like to try and do is give the dog all the basic and intermediate obedience training. Plus, we like to help them with whatever their disability is, whether it's anxiety or something else along those lines. We like to try and give the dog at least one thing to be able to do for them as an emotional support. Now, that's not required, but we like to say that this is what we want to do because we want the dog to be able to help you more than just be a dog. Versus the service animal, who is trained to do multiple things, cross-trained to not only help you, but maybe to help your family as well. For example, we have a poodle that's out there who is looking after a little boy. And so if you're a mother and you're changing your son and all of a sudden you've left the diaper rash cream on the table in the kitchen, you can't leave your child who's in the bathtub to go and get that. So we train the dog to go and get it. So it's actually helping the family as well as helping for the individual. So those dogs are highly trained and they do more than they actually need for the particular disability that they're working with because we want them to have an all-rounded education. And so if we have a dog in the house, we actually have one dog that there's 2 young girls, the husband and wife, and the dog is for the youngest daughter. But the dog actually serves everybody in the house. And one of the ridiculous things is that they are constantly dropping clothes on the floor. And so they asked me one day, can you train him to pick all the clothes up off the floor? And I said, sure. I said, it will be a great task for him. So he now picks up all the clothes and he puts them into a laundry diaper. And I think it was 4 months later, the husband calls me and I said, hi, how are you doing? He said, can you teach the dog to pick up all their clothes and leave mine? And I said, nope, everything goes in the basket.
That's awesome. So what's the kind of wildest animal you've ever worked with on the emotional support side?
On the emotional support, I would have to say it was a rabbit.
Wow.
Yeah, a rabbit. That rabbit gave me the runaround.
Or the hop around as far as he's concerned.
Yeah, really cute. Yeah, so yeah, it's a rabbit. And I think I have a couple of favorite as far as service dogs are concerned. Great Danes, love Great Danes. They're great dogs. And, of course, Rufus. Can't forget Rufus. He's just a joy and a love forever.
Yep. Well, Greats and the Great Danes in their name. So yeah. We have another family at church who has a Great Dane, and we do a once-a-year, one-day retreat. Excuse me. And they bring him to that. And it was a couple weeks ago. We were at Red Top. And
that's a nice place to go.
Yes.
Yeah,
we were in the little, I don't know, not overhang, but it was a little building there. And he's sitting there on the floor, and of course, all the kids are loving on him and stuff. And then adults walk over, and he would look up with those puppy eyes, and he'd be like, of course, he's bigger than everybody else, but still those puppy eyes are like, whatever you want, I'll give it to you.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I'm guessing goldfish cannot be trained to be.
Well, no, I don't know about fish. I did have a golf ball goldfish many moons ago that if you moved your finger around on the outside of his tank, he would actually swim in circles and follow your finger.
Wow.
So I don't know if that's classified as.
Well, it works for me.
I think every animal has abilities. You just have to know what you're talking about.
And they all have personalities, too.
They all have personalities, absolutely. Yeah. So, it's one of those things. I do know that earlier you were talking about, this is charity and community and everything else like that. So I was wondering if we could
go
ahead. A little bit about what we're doing. So Paws for Life USA is actually having a silent auction tomorrow at its school location at 3100 Roswell Road in Marietta. And all the funds from this holiday bacon basket sale are going to, proceeds will go towards training a service animal for a veteran or a first responder. So if anybody is out there and wants to do something on Saturday afternoon from 12 to 3:30, please come round to us, and we're on the corner of Old Canton and Roswell Road. And we have some wonderful things. We have homemade pies. We have homemade scones. We have pretzels that are being done. An awful lot of the items that we have for auction are being donated by a Air Force veteran. And we have some baskets that are just ready to go for Thanksgiving. They have wine in them. They have glasses. We have a British tea basket. We have, you name it, we've got it. So there's a little bit of something for everybody. So if you're looking for that quick and easy gift and you don't have time to go to the store and you don't want to worry about looking around through Black Friday, then come to us and get a basket, and you've saved all your problems.
There you go. Now I'm hungry. So,
yeah.
You have any other events after that you want to share?
So no, I mean, that will be probably our final event for the year until we do, start in 2024. It's already
I know, it's crazy.
Around the corner, isn't it? Yeah. So no, usually that's probably our last event for the year is the weekend before Thanksgiving. Every year we have this, silent auction, and, but that's good. Yes.
Awesome. Well, I got two more questions, a two-parter question, and then we'll get you to share your information again as far as contact. But so I'd like for you, for those listening who might be thinking about, this is a two-part question. The first one is who somebody might be thinking about starting their own business.
Okay.
The other one is for a person thinking about starting a 501c3 nonprofit. What advice would you give those individuals?
Okay. So as far as starting your own organization, for my side of things, if we talking about wanting to become, say you want to become a service dog trainer or a dog trainer, we actually have one of our organization is called American Canine Connection, and it's a post-secondary Department of Educational certified school, and people can come and learn how to become master dog trainers or service dog trainers. So once they have gone through the 1 year or the 2 year program, they then have the ability and the certifications to be able to go out and do dog walking, run a boarding kennel, train dogs for other people and start up their own business and be able to start having a career and a life as far as working with dogs are concerned. So it just depends on how far you want to go up the ladder. If you want to go all the way, then service dogs is the way to go. If you just want to start group training and start something, you can start that in your own home and then eventually migrate to, having your own facility or renting it, or you can go and work for an organization that already exists. And there's jobs out there that I'm aware of to be able to go and join an organization. You're basically sort of like independent within this organization and train dogs for them and get paid. So it's a great resource, and you can do that forever.
Right.
You can train animals forever. There's no limit, and you can't get fired from your job.
Right.
You're training dog or you're doing a dog walk, and as long as you're physically able, you can do that. And as far as starting your own 501c3. In this day and age, yes, if you want to be a charity, starting your own 501c3, there's a few hoops that you have to jump through, legal parameters. There's an outlay of money that you have to put out to be able to get your licenses and get the IRS to approve you. But for me, I did that got approved in 2004. It was the only way to go. I had done some volunteering for some shelters and different things over a couple of years beforehand. And, as a volunteer, I didn't like what I saw. So I kept on putting my 2 cents in, and nobody liked me for doing that. So I thought, well, okay, so I'm going to do this myself. So I went out and I did the research and I opened up my own 501c3, and I said, okay, now that you won't let me do it for you, I'm going to do it for me, and I'm going to do it for the animals. So that's how I did my 501c3. But it definitely, if you have a mission, and you feel strongly enough about it, you need to go ahead and do it. It's just a wonderful thing. And for me, I live, speak, and dream dogs. And I want to help people with disabilities. And so that's my whole thing. I gave up working with doing accounting, and was actually my trade of choice. And, I always wanted to train dogs and help people with disabilities, and I'm living my dream.
Awesome. How do you guys get the word out for your organization?
Word of mouth and client referrals.
Okay.
We have our website, pawsforlifeusa.org. We have our LinkedIn, same thing. We tweet. Anything that we can do like that on our social media, we're all out there.
Okay. So again, share the website, and then if they want to get a hold of you for anything else, are there other ways to do that?
Okay. So it's Kimberly Brenowitz, and it's pawsforlifeusa.org, our website, pawsforlifeusa.org. And the same thing, the same name. Got to put the USA on it, though, because there is somebody else out there with Paws for Life. So make sure you do pawsforlifeusa.org, and that's us. And if you want to reach me directly, it's 770-402-0297. I'll gladly answer any questions that you have, or you can email me at admin@pawsforlifeusa.org. And the 4 is spelled out FOR. So it's pawsforlifeusa.org.
Awesome. Well, Kimberly, thanks for coming on and sharing. Don't go anywhere. We're not done with you yet. So
my pleasure.
We're moving over now to Miss Buffy Payne from the Outer Circle Foundation. Buffy, you weren't able to come with Matt a few months ago because you had an emergency to go to, but you've since unjoined the corporate world to take over more of the Outer Circle Foundation. So welcome this morning, Buffy.
Thank you for having me.
You guys do a lot for the community and stuff. As a matter of fact, the golf tournament you guys put on, you actually gave that money to 2 other organizations, right? So if you don't mind, share a little bit about your background, and then we'll get into a little bit more about the Outer Circle Foundation.
Sure. So my background, honestly, is a security professional. Been in the security industry for 25 years. Recently left that with a passion to continue to help others. And helping others has been, I think, in my blood and in my DNA all along, even within security. That's what I did, help others, educate folks. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. So for many years, I helped women of domestic violence, help them get to a safe place, help educate them, help them see that there is another way to live. And over time, it kind of evolved into this mission with Matt and I, both having that in our blood of helping others. And so veterans and first responders, because we both work so closely with those, and Matt being a veteran, that became our passion. That became the group that we really tend to gravitate towards to help those.
So you talked about the security background. What type of security?
Oh, goodness. You name it. It's everything, really. But most of the time when people hear me talk about security, they think, oh, that's IT. Well, honestly, it's everything but IT. Right. I know enough about IT to be scary, but really it's more of the intel, the actionable intelligence, the physical security, the situational awareness, how to keep yourself safe, investigations, things of that nature. It's all the other stuff that helps keep a company or an individual safe. That is our passion in security. So
just get some advice for somebody listening about what to do for security, stuff you just mentioned, who might be a business owner or things of that nature, just a little bit of tidbits of what they need to kind of keep an eye out for.
Oh, yeah. So, in this day and age of technology and social media and how easy it is for people to overshare, that's one of the first things I really talk when I talk to organizations is about your social media awareness and what's being put out there. So often when I go in and talk with leaders of companies, they'll say, oh, I'm not on social media. I'm like, you may not be, but you have teenagers at home that are, or you have a spouse at home that is, and they're advertising, oh, my spouse is traveling here or there, or dad is gone, right? I said, you will be amazed at those around you that overshare. Right? You have family dinners, you talk about what's going on at work, and then your teenagers find that interesting, and next thing you know, it's on social media. So there's the awareness even beyond just the person in the seat at the organization, it's those around them. And then it's the same within a company, right? You've got to have that good balance of education and awareness and making sure your employees understand the balance of what's appropriate to share and what's not.
It's funny because when social media first, I remember MySpace, that was my first I guess everybody's first was MySpace.
Yeah.
And people talking about, well, I'm having this for dinner. Who cares?
I know.
Or I'm in the interlibrary. Hint, hint. Who cares?
And now everybody shares everything.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely, like you said, oversharing. So I guess with that oversharing aspect of it, because a lot of people do share their pictures, they're on vacation and stuff like that. There are things that, other than not doing it, are there any other things they can do to kind of can protect them?
Yeah, of course there's so many things people can do, right? And one of the stories that is always the fun one to tell, not fun for the victim, was I had family that was so excited to go on vacation, taking this 2-week trip. They talked about it and they advertised. They did their whole countdown on Facebook, going here, going here, going here. Well, they were gone for 2 weeks. When they got home, their house was empty. So the tagline now is share where you've been, not where you are, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's great that you're going on vacation. It's great that you're going to be somewhere, but you wait till you get back from that somewhere before you start sharing those pictures and those stories.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk a little bit now about the Outer Circle Foundation. Sure. So you guys, you had mentioned you work with veterans, but also the first responders, because Matt was actually both.
Yep.
So talk about what you guys do. I know he shared stuff, but from your now that you're kind of running things, I guess you would say, just share what you guys do and then how people can help.
Yep. So in Outer Circle, our mission is really helping focus on PTSD awareness and suicide prevention. We do also help our first responders and veterans with that transition when they're leaving the military or leaving that first responder job and they're looking for their next step. So we help with those education pieces, resume development, how to work the network, mock interviews, things of that nature, things that are much different in the job world versus the military or versus your first responder environment. Matt being both a first responder and military, has suffered from PTSD for numerous years. And I've watched this and have helped manage this for a long time. And there's so many treatments out there that are medicine driven and that are not effective. Matt and I went down the road of different medications for him, and he was not a person when he was on those medicines. He would sit around for hours, just in this fog and couldn't function. And so we went to market and said, there's got to be a better way. And lo and behold, one of his teammates, a guy by the name of Dr. James Lynch, is out of Baltimore, and he helped develop the stellate ganglion block. And so that was Matt went and had that treatment, and he's been an impressively different person just from that one treatment. And so that we've got a partnership with Dr. Lynch, and that is one of the things that we educate our veterans and first responders that come to us on is this is something you should consider. This is something to look at. It's not a medication. It's not these therapy sessions, but instead it is an instantaneous change of life. And we've seen numerous veterans go and meet Dr. Lynch and get this treatment, and we're seeing a change in these behaviors, which is phenomenal. It's exciting.
Right.
If we could get out there and get everybody to sign up, we would. As a matter of fact, Dr. Lynch just posted yesterday a program for veterans to come and get the shot for free.
Wow.
And so we reposted that to our LinkedIn page yesterday so that veterans can see that and get enrolled in that program.
Matt, when he was here, he shared about the experience of seeing himself on the dock at a young boy's, and he said it never happened, and that was the calmest he's ever felt. So
absolutely.
That's awesome. So let me ask you this. As a spouse, you said you've seen that go through. First of all, it's got to be scary of certain aspects of it, but can you share, first of all, I guess there's hope, if you're somebody's a family member or a spouse going through and seeing their loved one do that, share what they can do, and then how did you handle the situation, or how are you handling the situation?
Yep. So with Matt, as being his spouse and seeing the indicators with him with his short temper or letting something so simple frustrate him, him not sleeping, the nightmares, and they started getting worse, right? During COVID, when life was really uncertain and things were going on, he just became more intensive with everything. And it became to a point where we knew that he had to do something. else, right? And the medicines just weren't working. He would stand up and fall over because the medicines had him so out of his normal self. And then when we went and met Dr. Lynch and talked to Dr. Lynch and agreed that we were going to do this treatment, and then that same day that Matt had his first treatment with Dr. Lynch, he slept 14 hours that night.
Wow.
That man has never slept before. And, I woke up multiple times to check him because he slept so well that first night, and I couldn't believe it. And to see that now is amazing. To see him not overreact to items now is amazing, right? And he, even he sees it, right? He sees his reactions are not the same. So that's been fabulous, right? And he's just a different person.
That's great.
And for him to share that story with other veterans so that they can go, okay, yeah, I see some of myself in that.
Right.
And from the spouse perspective, the treatment itself is simple, right? It takes less than an hour. The side effects are none. The results are instant. For me, it's been like a breath of fresh air, right? Because now I know he's feeling better. I know that the person he is, and I'm not going to get these reactions to stuff that I would get before.
And I'm sure it's come a long way because when you first heard about PTSD, people were like, first of all, what is that? And second of all, they probably didn't have, I know they didn't have all the stuff that's out there now. So it's amazing that's come along. So one thing you touched on that I think is important to share too is I talk about, I could be passionate in helping veterans, which I am, but I've never been a veteran, right? So, and I talk about this too with a friend of mine, Kevin Harris, with All In, All Out Ministries. He went down the road of addiction, so now he's helping me with addiction, right? I think it's so important that while somebody like myself who's either never been in addiction or a veteran may have a passion for helping, it's a lot more stronger with somebody who's been in that road and now helping those others. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But, it was interesting with Matt. He's always wanted to help others, but it took him a long time to realize he had PTSD. He would push it off. That's in his responses when he would get upset was that that's just who I am. And I'm like, it's not because I've seen you different. I've seen you at moments where everything's fine, and I've seen you at moments where I think the world's going to implode. And to finally get him to recognize he had PTSD and get him to recognize and realize he needed treatment, that was a huge step. And now that he can take that story and share it with others, they listen.
Right.
And it is by far more impactful.
And the other thing that's another thing to point out that you just mentioned is that your situation or things that victimize or whatever doesn't define you.
Right.
It's how you handle it, the way you can move on and teach others and help others. But it is not a defining moment for you. So,
that's right.
All right. So you also have Inner Circle Foundation as well, correct?
Inner Circle Solutions, yes.
Inner Circle Solutions. Okay.
That's right.
Can you tell us about that?
Sure. Inner Circle Solutions is a solutions company. We go out and work with organizations or individuals, understand what their risks are, and help provide solutions, whether it's solutions of technology or training or whatever it is they may need. We help bring those solutions to them. And one of the things with Inner Circle, any work that we do, we give a percentage of every contract to Outer Circle. So that's our way that we're helping support our nonprofit.
Are there certain industries with your Inner Circle Solutions that you work with and a size?
In really any industry that we can work within, right? So with my background and our team's background, we cover all industries, everything from restaurant to retail to finance to manufacturing, right? We have that pretty far knowledge and scope that we can help support any organization. And we do everything big to small, right? So we've been working with small churches, helping them build security programs within their churches, which is amazing that our industry has shifted so much that we have to go into churches and help them build security programs, but we are doing that. So there's no company too large or too small that we won't take.
When you go to churches, do you guys do anything with like active shooters?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. We are both certified to train an active assailant program and help educate, whether it's a church or a school or any organization, about active assailant, what to do, how to behave, how what to expect
Right.
in a situation. And it's also sad that we have to do
Yes.
that. But, you know, the one thing that Matt and I really talk about whenever we talk with individuals, whether we're in a company talking to them or at a school or a church talking to people, when we educate and teach you about security, it doesn't only apply here where you are, but you can take that same training, take it home. You can take it to the grocery store. You can take it to a movie theater. It applies wherever you are. Security awareness and the training we provide applies at work and in life.
Wow, that's awesome. So share about the Outer Circle Foundation, how individuals or businesses can get involved and help you.
Yep. So, excuse me, Outer Circle Foundation, we have our website, outercirclefoundation.org. Certainly you can reach out through us there. And, you know, there's a means to make financial sponsorships or to sign up for volunteer events. Between now and the end of this year, which is not that far away, right? We are collecting gifts, and we're working with 2 senior centers that have quite a large population of veterans or first responders that are there, that we're going to provide Christmas gifts for them and do some volunteer work in their organizations in December, just helping make sure those in the senior center have a good holiday. And then after the first of the year, obviously we'll be running towards our next golf tournament, which will be in October. But from January to October, it goes by really quick when you start planning a golf event.
Well, there's something in between that too, which we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah, we'll talk about that one too. And you know, you did mention that our last golf tournament, October, that the money that we raised there, we plan to gift part of that to 2 different organizations. And one of those organizations is Kimberly, sitting here with us today at Pulse for Life US. And so what she doesn't know is we've got the final check this morning from one of the sponsors. And so we have for Pulse for Life a check for $10,000 that
Awesome.
we'll be giving them.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
Congratulations.
yeah.
So if somebody wants to volunteer or again, business, other than the money aspect of it, are there other ways they can get involved?
Absolutely. There's tons of ways to get involved. And I shared before we went live a little bit that we're working on an agreement right now to partner with another nonprofit that will provide technology to veterans. And then we are going to take the veteran from the point that they receive that technology and provide education, training, awareness on how to develop your resume, what LinkedIn should look like. And yes, you do have to be on LinkedIn if you plan on moving on into another job or role outside of what you've been doing. So as we're moving in through this agreement, we need tons of resources to help, whether it's a place to train folks or just people to come in and help us train those individuals, read resumes, proofreading, all of those education pieces. So our website should flurry with tons of volunteer opportunities where people can come out and help, provide space, provide potato chips and a soda, right? All of those things where our goal is to train and help place 1,000 veterans between now and 2025.
Awesome. I want to go back to your thing you're doing for the seniors, the Christmas. Are there certain gifts that you're looking for?
So right now, the centers have said most of the things that seniors would enjoy would be a book to read, socks, nice warm socks that they can wear because the centers sometimes are kind of cool, and then just small individual items that they can then have for themselves. And they're like, whether it's, a small snack, a box of chocolate, little handheld games, things that they can enjoy for themselves. They said, please don't do anything large because there's not a lot of place to store stuff.
Right.
She told me a story of somebody bringing a recliner one year, and they were
Wow.
like, I don't know what to do with this. But yeah, so small gifts that the individual can enjoy.
And what's the date that they can donate up to?
So all donations need to be in by December the 7th.
Okay.
And they'll be delivered the next week.
And where can they bring those?
They can bring them to Outer Circle Foundation at 342 Woodland Path in Dallas, Georgia.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I normally ask another question that you normally want to talk to you, but I got so involved talking about the animals because I love animals that I forgot to ask a couple questions.
That's okay.
So we're going to come back and do them all three at the end.
Okay.
So, but I do want to go back to Kimberly for 1 second. Yes. I forgot to ask you if individuals and businesses want to help Paws for Life, other than the financial aspect, how can they do that?
Oh, yes. Great question. So we're always looking for puppy raisers. So if somebody wants to take a 8 or 10-week-old puppy into their home and help socialize them whilst we're waiting for a potential match to come along for them, we provide all the food, or of course all the veterinary things for the puppy. You just have to provide the love and the attention and come to us for training. So the pup is learning basic obedience whilst you're doing your puppy raising. So we're always open to that. And anyone who wants to volunteer, more than welcome to have you come to any of our events. You can also make donations to us for our next year's Veterans Holiday Basket. We're always looking for gifts for that. Otherwise than that, we're open to, we are going to be doing a shoe drive again next year. And so we're always looking for people that have gently used or new shoes that they no longer want when they come to clear out their closet. Just let us know, and we will put out a basket for those donations to be made, and we'll also let you know a time when you can deliver them to us.
And where can they drop those off at?
They can reach out to us by, of course, calling us by phone, but they will be dropped off at the 3100 Roswell Road, Marietta, Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But Buffy, real quick,
Yes,
we have something going on in March.
We do.
And we moved it because I was dumb and picked the week before Thanksgiving and didn't realize it. So March 21st, 2024, put it on your calendars. It's going to be the first annual America's Hometown Heroes Expo.
That's right.
You want to share any information about that?
Oh, I think this is going to be fabulous. And the timing of this is just perfect, right? So Hometown Heroes Expo is going to be the opportunity for organizations to be present and share jobs that they're trying to fill. It's also a great time for our veterans and first responders or anybody in the community really to come out and say, hey, I need a job. Or it's also, think about those veteran-owned businesses that want to come out and showcase who they are, what they're about, our nonprofit organizations. It's just a wonderful time for everybody to come together, network, shake hands, hopefully find some jobs.
Yep. We're going to have a silent auction there as well. We'll have some food. We're going to have my buddy Daniel for 1041 K9 is going to do a K9 demonstration with his dog. So it'll be a lot of fun. So you can go to beescharitablepursuits.com. That's BEES charitablepursuits.com and get more information out as well, or go to my Facebook page. And Buffy, share your website and stuff one more time as well.
Sure. Outer Circle is www.outercirclefoundation.org.
Awesome. Buffy, thanks for sharing again. We're not done. We'll come back to you. But we do have another gentleman in the house. Thank goodness I'm not the only guy, because lately I've been the only guy in the studio. So Todd Masters from Focal Point Coaching and Training Excellence. Thanks for being here this morning.
My pleasure.
So, first of all, we just had Veterans Day this past Saturday, and thank you for your service. You're a veteran, so happy belated Veterans Day.
Thank you.
Air Force, correct?
Air Force, yep.
Can you share a little? We'll get into what you're doing now in just a little bit, but share your background, share about your service and what you did, and
Sure.
we'll go into that.
Yeah, I don't have the great military background story like Matt has, but I was on scholarship out of high school for Air Force ROTC. So Uncle Sam paid for my degree in electrical engineering. And, I grew up in the 80s, Top Gun, all the inspirational movies, the shock and awe and things that happened, during the early 90s. So, every kid my age wanted to go into either the Navy or the Air Force. And I went with the one that gave me the biggest scholarship and went that way. So loved it, had a great time. Didn't have a long career. Right after I got out of the ROTC program, we had the big reduction in force, right? So a lot of the half the military was gone at that age. When Clinton took administration after the war, after the Bush build-up years, and then Clinton came on board, and we had too big of a military, so they cut it. And last one's in, first one's out. So that was it. But I loved it, cherished that time. But it was a bit of a heartbreak, for seeing your dream kind of get taken away on that part of it. But, there's always plans for other things. From there, I went into I had some small businesses that I did, but I felt obligated to use my engineering degree and go on that route. But I did have a home painting business, a home refinishing, remodeling business. And then I went in and became an engineer for about a year and a half, and then figured out that sales and marketing actually pays a little better than engineering. So I went into technical sales and spent a lot of time last 20 plus years in corporate sales and marketing. For very large companies to 100,000 employees, down to very small companies of 10 employees. And throughout that widespread of executive sales and marketing, the thing that always drove my passion and my excitement was when I was working with individuals and training and coaching, mentoring, and bringing people up, and especially new sales folks that come on the in the circuit. And training them up from not knowing how to do anything to, being able to make a good living for themselves and families, through the sales training and other parts of it. And just seeing the change you can make in lives. But, in corporate America, it's really hard to make a big difference in your community. And my family background is all entrepreneurial. My great grandfather, had a Woolworths business. My grandfather started an electrical wholesale business. Most of my uncles and aunts all had, their own businesses, mostly in the home services trade area. Electrical wholesale, plumbers, electricians, mechanics. So I've always seen that part of it, and seeing what my grandfather did, and he built up a good business that's still run by a family. He had a tremendous impact on the community, being able to be flexible to help people, to give people jobs that really needed jobs, making a big dent and impact in the community. Also, my other grandfather on the other side was very active, in Lions Club and some of the local businesses and making things, really help out, in this day and age. And I think where our country's going, small businesses is really going to become more important, especially as the new generation gets out and starts working, 9 to 5. And the first week, as we've seen all the TikToks come, they're not so excited about the whole 9 to 5 thing.
Right.
So I think there's going to be a big push, especially since they see a lot of peers, I do air quotes, getting rich on social media and these quick things, right? They think, I can just start my own thing and all of a sudden, become self-sustained.
Right.
And that's not going to be real. But I think they're going to take a swing at having a small business and doing that part of it. So I think we're going to see a big shift, in the work area, especially if corporations still are pushing the, back to the office type schemes. I shouldn't say schemes, but that is a part of it versus the work at home or flexibility. If they don't find that good balance, then that there's going to be a lot of workers that are just going to start their own thing on that piece of it.
So, what did you do in the Air Force? What was your particular job?
Communications.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you talked about being an entrepreneur and everything. So you are a coach, right? Coach with businesses and stuff like that. Share about what you do now.
Yeah. So, got out of corporate America to come back and make a difference and help people. With the good background in sales and marketing, it's great to be able to work with companies. And charities all suffer, small businesses and charities all suffer the same problem. We all have, the one big issue, which is obscurity, right? People don't know who we are. They don't know what we do. They don't know how to find us. It's always that constant battle. And charities are small businesses, right? So getting out and coming from, head of sales and head of marketing type positions, and, with large marketing budgets, it's really easy to end obscurity when you have $20 million to work with, right? But go to a charity and a small business, funds are a lot tighter, right? It's a lot harder to do that part of it. So everybody is insanely busy and scrambling. Social media updates, websites, got to do this, got to do that, business cards, going out, today's small business owner and charities are just so overwhelmed and busy trying to do all of these things. And it's becoming more and more competitive, and if people get more and more into the small businesses, it's going to become even more crazy. So I got out really of corporate world to, one, make a difference in the lives of small business owners, and that's turned into helping out a lot of charities. But from the get-go, my business model has always had a 10% buffer in there, if you will, of giving back to charity. So it was always going to be 10% of my time or my revenue on that piece of it to give back and make sure that I've got room to give back to the community and do things for those that I can help.
Well, one thing you've talked about before that you kind of help and give back to is a CRM program for nonprofits. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So so I'm a certified business coach and executive coach, and there's a lot of coaches out there. It's a lot bigger industry than I thought it was, even though I did the market research. But there's a couple kind of coaches, those that, will come to a business and kind of have some, pre-canned material, if you will. And Focal Point, the franchise that I have was founded by Brian Tracy, a nice, great business mind. And we come out and coach more towards results and outcomes. And when I go in and work with a small business or a charity, and we work through what's the biggest challenge that you're facing right now. Obscurity is certainly one of them. The next thing, one or two things usually come out of their mouths. I need more customers, or I need to make more money. And so we talk about that. And a big part of small businesses is to generate leads, right? To go out and get your message out and bring people in to have engagement with you, so you can have a conversation, and talk about what you do. So as a coach, it's one thing to say you need to go out and find a way to get the word out, or you need to work on your digital presence or your digital footprint, and go find somebody that can do that for you. Whereas for me, I like to bring the people that I work with a tool. I want to actually let's get some results and do that. So I found a platform that I could white label as an agency and build a lot of custom automations and all the actions and all the things that an all-in-one toolbox for a small business, priced for small businesses with all the features and functionality that small businesses need to automate a lot of their systems, to bring all the conversations into one place, to help, save the time in doing some different parts of it, have the website, have landing pages, SMS, email, all those features all in one platform. And, more importantly, it's building all the automations that kind of help streamline all that piece together. So I've pieced that together and also offer that to charities, as well at an extremely discounted rate, in some instances. But, it's always a challenge when you introduce technology. It's like, sometimes, giving a brand new 16-year-old driver a semi-truck as a first car, right? It's wow, I know this thing is huge and it has all these capabilities, but I have no idea how to drive a big truck, right? So then comes in the specialized services to do, website development, landing page development, marketers, digital advertising, all the things that we still have to do. It takes a while, then to learn those skills or to find people that can come in and do that piece of it. Which again, I've got a certain amount of time that I can help, but it's not a full-time job that I can do that. So I have partnered with several good digital marketing companies that are given veteran rates for their services with a discount 20%. And they're going to be able to donate some hours to help out with building up some of the charitable websites that I'm helping out with. So that's good.
So they need to be part of our expo.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. We can bring them out. So that'd be great.
So those that might be listening who aren't familiar with what a CRM is, share what that is.
Sure. So, in the digital media world, a CRM is a customer resource management tool, right? So in big corporations, you'll have, HubSpot or Salesforce, right? Salesforce is typically the biggest one, Oracle, SAP, big, huge systems, that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to run and manage. And even at the small business level, there's hundreds of CRMs that are out there that typically cost, depending on the features, $500, $600, $1,000 a month. And all the software platforms as small businesses start, you start out with Calendly or a calendar function. You have to have a video thing, so you'll use Zoom or Google Meet or something like that. But then you start needing to have a big email management to do, large messaging, campaigns. You'll need to hire a website developer and host a website on another platform. And over the first course of the year of, the first year of somebody being in business, you've got 20, 30, 40 different subscriptions or platforms or fees and costs that typically cost, around $1,000 to $2,000 a month. So I've tried to bring this platform that does, all of the customer management. So you bring in all of your customer information into one place, and you can call them from the platform, email them from the platform, text them from the platform to have conversations. You can also connect your social media accounts. So your messages from Facebook and TikTok will come in, so you don't have to log into those other platforms. And you can also post out to LinkedIn, post out to TikTok, post out to Facebook from inside the platform. So you can create your content and just launch it from one place. When you can have mostly it's the web page, right? So you have the web page engagement where you have tracking whoever comes and visits to your webpage, with your calls to action, which is very important. And really, with a webpage, it's very important to, very quickly say, who you are, what you do, and what does your visitor get out of engaging with you. And then you ask them to do something,
right?
Engage on your website, whether it's, hey, sign up for our newsletter. Here's a promotion we have going on, or would you like to volunteer for this upcoming event, right? And you want to capture that information so that you can then send them an email, maybe a text reminder, and all those things. But if you're talking about trying to do that for 2,000 people, doing that manually, it's just not, it's not sustainable.
Right.
You've got to be able to automate and bring automation into your life to do that, to make sure that no leads or no potential donors, fall through the cracks and maximize that effort.
So, I'm not going to ask this question because I want them to contact you to find out more about that CRM platform.
Sure.
Share how people can get a hold of you and talk to you about that.
Yeah. Well, if you want to launch your own CRM, it's just launchyourcrm.com.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So when you work in, you're talking about your coaching and stuff. You work with all different businesses?
I do.
Small businesses?
Yeah. I haven't niched down into a specific industry, but I do like to work with small businesses that typically, 1 to 100 employees is kind of ideal, right? And within a business life cycle, you'll have a startup business that has a great idea and wants to launch, have all the excitement. They may have some funding, but they hit that part where it's like, oh, wow, this is a lot more work than I thought, or it's not going as well as I thought. Or in the rare instance, man, this thing is taking off like a rocket. I need help to scale really quickly. That's probably, 5% of small businesses that start just out of the gate have some awesome product and they're just full of energy and it just takes off and launches. The other 95% of people, it's a churn. I mean, it's a lot of work that people don't always realize. And then they start to hit this down cycle where they almost want to give up and quit. Certainly I can come in and help there, but it's a high stress situation. But I come in and I usually do a lot of free consultations at that point to let them know, hey, from a second set of eyes, you're going to be fine, right? Here, we need to do these things, get through this hump, right? And let's start working together. Or, you're right. This is going to be really hard to get out. You maybe considered going this angle and maybe, starting again, doing a restart. But at that point, typically when you hit this, what I call a growth cycle of once you're stabilized, you have a good product, you have pretty good systems and tools in place, and you've gotten over that initial shock and awe of starting a business, that growth phase is really where my customers get the most value, especially when we're talking about sales and marketing. And so now let's ramp up, let's optimize, and let's really crank out your revenue. And one of the first consultations I'll do with a small business is let's just look at what you're doing right now and how you're doing things, how well you're advertising, how well you're marketing, how well are you selling. Let's gauge your effectiveness and what's coming in that you're doing. And actually 100% of the meetings that I have, these consultations, just by making small micro adjustments to what they're doing in their current business model, making small micro adjustments can double their revenues by changing, what they spend their time on. Let's look at your lead management. Let's look at your conversion rates. Let's look at, some of the, I call them 6 levers or 6 main metrics that we look at. And just making small little tweaks can make such a huge impact over 12 months. I'm like, okay, so let's just do some small adjustments here and there. We're just going to turn these knobs just a little bit, and it's going to double your revenues. It's going to make it easier to work with me, and pay a coach because you never considered that before. And then we're going to work on a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year plan. So a lot of my customers like that, especially when I come in and with the sales and marketing experience and say, okay, well, yeah, there's no wonder why this ad's not working because you're set up to go to the wrong audience. Or let me talk to your sales reps and let's go through the scripts and see how they're selling. It's like, okay, if you change this one thing, you're going to double your closing rates. And that's happened with a few of my clients where I get a text the next day after we go through the sales training and said, hey, I did exactly what you said and I doubled my sales today. It's just amazing, right? So, there's a lot of little tweaks, and that just comes from all the different experience that I have. But I also work with corporations, and I've done a couple. I do sales training and corporate communications training as well. I'm a certified DISC. If you've heard of the DISC analysis for the 4 personality types, which I just love. For me, team dynamics and company culture are so important to the success of a company. And a lot of culture dies because we fail to communicate how the other person desires to be communicated with, right? We more of communicate our style and expect them, the other person, to hear what I'm saying, how I'm saying it, and respond the way that I want them to respond. But really, we need to communicate in a way that they need to be communicated to. So we have to understand the difference of personalities and dynamics of what types we are. So I go in and do some training. I did one last week, and you can get in there and know that there's a little fog in the air. There's some tension going on between executives and employees, which there always is, because executives typically are these high D, high I, driven director style personalities, which they have to be. Companies need that. And then within the employee base, you're going to have all types, right? But typically the opposites of the Ds are going to be ones that are more detail, more analytical, more introverted. And there's always that big gap between, they didn't, take my advice and now the company is going to fail because X, Y, and Z. Well, how did we communicate that advice? Was it through 1,000 spreadsheets and, things I had to read through, or did you summarize it in 2 bullets of, if you do X, Y happens, because that's what a D needs to see at that level? Like, oh, okay. Yeah. I might've been a little too detailed there. Yeah. Yeah, you were. So let's work on that. Right. So
when you're working with small businesses, I'm guessing it's you're working with the owner, but if they have, you say up to the 100 employees, do you work with the owner and somebody else within the industry or the business, or who's typically, other than the owner, somebody you might work with?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, all my coaching offers are going to be customized based on what their needs are. I love to work with the business owners, certainly, and there's going to be more one-on-one coaching. We're going to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about communication, certainly all the business skills and things that they need to be trained on so they can, then go train their employees. The important thing about coaching and the difference between coaching and consulting is that a coach will train the business muscles of a business and a business owner to teach them to become stronger, to go out and then do the things that they need to do themselves, where a consultant's going to be hired to come in and then go do that work, off in the background and come back. And then the company becomes dependent maybe on the consultants because they don't know what they do or how they did it. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to teach you how to do it, work with you on that part. And I'll help train your employees. I'll help train your senior executive staff, right, in communication. But I want you there with me to watch me how I do it. I want you part of the results. I want you to part of these things. Not that they have to become a sales trainer themselves or a communications trainer, but I want them to know what's going on that piece of it. Because really, to get everybody working, everybody needs to look at their skill sets. And, it's really, everybody here is amazingly successful and talented at what you do. I feel a little intimidated being between you two amazing ladies. But it's if you're a hard worker and you're putting a lot of yourself into your job, which most people do. If you're just basically not a slacker, but you're not as successful as the top person on your team, right? It gets frustrating, and you keep hammering at it, and just can't seem, to be one of the top salespeople or win that award. Oftentimes, the difference between the champions and the people that come in second, third, or fourth or fifth place is such a small adjustment. Is just an adjustment in one skill, one area. And it's important, to come find that awareness of what's that critical constraint? What is that one thing that's holding you back? If you think of a horse race, the difference between in the Kentucky Derby of the horse that comes in first place versus the horse that comes in second place, what's that difference? Or NASCAR, inches between, champion and second. So, so my training really focuses on, let's identify, what the weakest link is in whatever X thing that you're trying to accomplish. And let's just focus on that one skill, and let's just get 1% better every month. 1% every month. Right. And by the end of the year, it's 10% better. And you can take your average performing sales team, employees, productivity, whatever, and in the course of just a few weeks or months, double productivity, double results, and really see that. And the light goes off in people's, eyes, in their minds. It's like, wow, I can do this. This isn't impossible. I can provide more for my family. I can do better. And all along, because we get paralyzed through the analysis of all the overwhelming things that we have to do. And we just can just then do nothing. And that's what coaching comes in, is help. Let's create some awareness first, right, of where we're at. Let's just find an action of make small adjustments. And then I'm going to hold you accountable to that. And we're going to see the results come.
Right. So you are out of Buford, Decula, you said. Do you work all over Metro Atlanta?
All Metro, Athens, Gainesville. So we travel. I can do a lot virtually, but I do like to do, face to face as much as I can on that piece of it. My website's Todd Masters, focalpointcoaching.com. You can find me there. There's links to the CRM on that piece as well. But yeah, I like to show up with tools, experience, and that part of it. But, the important part of my coaching is that I provide value first, right? I'm going to work with you to show you what I can do, how I can help you. And then it's going to make sense or it's not going to make sense. My coaching isn't for everyone, but pretty quick we can see if it's right for you.
Right. I got so many questions running through my head, but I'm going to ask two more before we kind of wrap this up. Sure. So, the first question is, when I guess coaches and consultants first came out, people were like, first of all, what?
Yeah.
And then they get kind of a bad rap, you're right. And there's so, like you mentioned earlier, there are so many out there.
Yeah.
Can you maybe do a little debunked on the reputation for a coach or a consultant? And then second of all, what's the best way to choose the right person to work with?
Yeah. Great questions. Certainly. Yeah. There's, anybody can call them a coach. It's not a highly regulated industry. But to be a certified, business coach, you have to go through a certification process. So that's important to be certified first, and looking at the background. A lot of coaching turns out to be referrals. Focal Point is a franchise, created by Brian Tracy, which is a great business mind. And there's very selective on who can become a Focal Point coach. You have to have certain number of years of experience in the industry. You have to have you have to pass the assessments to see if you're actually a person that's a good coach personality that really has the desire to help others on that piece of it. But you have to have a conversation and you have to talk to, the other people that they've worked with to see the kind of results. So reputation is important. Referrals are important. But you have to have that conversation and then see, is this person really going to get me to this end result? Right. So you're gonna have to come and understand what is it, if you know what your goals are, ask the coach, how do you plan on getting me to reach these goals? Are you just going to fill me with warm, fuzzy feelings, every Friday, of like, here's this famous quote from blah, blah, blah? No. That's helpful. Mindset's good. But is there actually going to be some tools? Is there going to be some things that are going to make a dent in my business? So it's going to take a lot of, you have to have a conversation, right? So if you have a coach or you're looking to get a coach, hop on a discovery call. They're 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever you want to do. And have that conversation to see it for sure.
So another thing, and this goes within the industry, not just the consulting and coaching, but somebody's like, they're worried about the financing part of it, especially with me when I'm doing these fundraisers and I'm trying to get sponsors.
Yeah.
It's when you're sitting, you have to sit, you talked about having the conversation. I want to sit down with somebody and show them the value. Right. Because they're like, well, I'm just going to, and it's the same thing with coaching and consulting. I'm guessing that you have to go in and show the value of what you're going to bring them, right? Well, doubling their sales or whatever the case may be. So everybody has to have an open mind when they're sitting down talking to everybody, honestly.
Really.
Last question before we kind of go back to all of you, because again, I get wrapped up in some of the stuff, but, because you mentioned you had other businesses as well. If somebody is looking again to start their own business, share some advice from what would you advise them?
Go for it. I would say absolutely go for it. To do that, it is hard. It's not an easy thing, right? So there's pros and cons to both, right? And you're going to work hard to be successful in whatever area that you do. If you have a small business, there's no parachute. Right. There's no safety net. You can't go to your boss and ask for a raise. You can't go and ask for an advance on your commission. Right. It's going to be you that produces your results. You do have an ejection handle where you got to bail out. Right. That's the out for that part of it. So, a lot of veterans make great small business owners in most situations. Not always the education in business or not always having that background, of how to run a business, which is why coaches are important, or all the veteran organizations. Bunkerlabs.org is a great veterans resource for veterans that want to have a small business. A lot of free resources on how to start a small business on that part of it. So you definitely have to have a mentor to help you out and do that part of it. But the benefits of a small business is that you're the master of your destiny, and a lot of veterans make great small business owners because they understand passion. They've been in the thick. They understand what it takes to have commitment. They have the perseverance. They have the drive. And, they can stick with it, especially at that first curve where it starts to go downhill a little bit and reality sets in. Well, that's where you bunker in and make it work, which is kind of where Bunker Labs comes into play at too. So I would highly recommend looking at it. So you definitely want to understand what market you want to go into and do a lot of research, right? Just start on Google. Google your product, your company, your service, whatever you're going to do in my area. Find your competitive and do some good research up front to see am I coming in an area where I don't have a lot of competition that I could do well at, or other businesses like mine doing well. Who can I talk to that I could run this by, right? Google in business coach, right? And find those that do consultations like I do and say, hey, I'm thinking about starting a business. What do you think? I'm happy to spend 15, 30 minutes with you to tell you what I think from my experience, and to give you some resources to go off and do some research on that part of it, and do that. But you definitely need to put the work into it in advance and think through it in advance, in case you need funding in advance to sustain you and your family for a few months or years as it's lean, to be prepared for it. So definitely want to go into a situation like that as prepared as you can be, and not just say, wow, this 9-to-5 stuff is not for me. I'm going to quit my job and start a business. That's not the way to do it.
Definitely have all your ducks in a row, because I'm raising my hand because I'm guilty of jumping right in the waters. Great idea and stuff, but anyway, I got to let God handle that too. So I got 3 more questions for each of you. And again, I love this show because I get wrapped up in the stories and all the advice and all that. So we're going a little longer than normal, but that's okay as long as you guys are good. So 3 questions for each of you, and then we'll wrap this up. So I'm going to go back to Kimberly first.
Okay.
First question is, and I normally ask these while you guys are in the middle of talking individually, but again, I got too wrapped up in the animals, so thank you. No.
My pleasure.
We talked about why you're passionate in the animals and stuff like that and all that, but why is it important for you personally to be part of the community?
Because I like to give back, and I want to make sure that anybody that has a disability can live their life to their fullest. Because unless you actually know somebody that has a disability and how hard it can be, for example, you can be driving your car and somebody in the car in front of you is slow to turn around the corner, or looks like they're hesitating, or you're getting frustrated or whatever. Maybe that person has a disability and maybe they're not quite too sure, or maybe they're having a problem. But, just don't take things out in an individual. There's always 2 sides to a story. So you've got to learn to get a little bit of patience. And it seems that there's no patience left anymore in our area. And there's no thinking about somebody else. And there's no thinking you're all sort of seem to be wrapped up in ourselves. We need to think about some other people and how we can help and how we can be there for them.
Amen. Keep preaching. Keep going. Buffy, same question. Why is it important for you to be part of the community?
It's the desire to make a difference in someone else's life. It truly is. Seeing someone else overcome something or making their day a little better,
right, is
very heartfelt.
The little things too. Like we talked one time. I had a gentleman on that was one of my early shows that just smiling at somebody, just opening the door.
Yeah.
Right. And these days, thank yous.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Todd, what about you? Why is it important about the community?
Yeah. We're all connected. All of us. It doesn't matter who you are, what you think, where you're at. We're all connected. For me, I want to make sure who I'm connected to that I can help be successful, and that their families can be taken care of, to alleviate the stress and burdens of owning a business. But I firmly believe that in the next 20 years, the heart of this country and the survival of this country is going to be in the small business area. Yep. Right. And I want to do my part to make sure that America stays strong.
Awesome. All right. The other thing we talk about on here all the time is the power of networking. And Kimberly, you have the dogs that you can bring in, and I'm sure it's just awesome that in the networking speak to that. But do you have a story in particular you can share of how the positive of networking has benefited and helped you guys?
Everything as far as charity is concerned, for us anyway, has all been about word of mouth has all been about going out there into the public. Is, the dogs, yes. You walk in I was doing something with a foundation about a month ago, and I was one of the last people to arrive. And of course, what did I have? I had Rufus with me. So I walked in the door and everybody stopped. Everybody looked at the dog because the dog was the only person in the room at that time. And sometimes you just have to make a statement, and you have to do something that makes you stand out a little bit more from other people, because that's what's going to draw attention to what you need. And then from that point on, you can make the inroads, you can do the discussion. So it's a case of just being able to put yourself out there. I mean, we've had the door slammed in our faces more times than I care to remember. And, right now we're trying to find a grant writer to be able to continue writing grants for us, because without those grants, we don't get the support. We don't get the funds coming in to operate us, because with us, we're all volunteers. We don't get paid for anything that we do. So any funds that we bring into Paws for Life USA is 100% towards the animals and the people that we're working with.
I'll introduce you to somebody who does that for a living.
Yeah.
So
that's one of the things that we're desperate for. And it's getting that word out, is being, having that reliable content, and it's having us out there on the scene, push, 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 push. It never stops, 24/7.
All right. Well, like I said, I'll introduce you, Melanie Lambert, just for grants. That's the name of her business. Okay. I'll email you and her. She's a great lady. So as a matter of fact, Todd, I meant to mention this in April, Melanie and another friend of mine, Glenda Hicks, who is a trainer for nonprofits on boards and things like that. She's also a CPA strictly for nonprofits. We're going to be hosting a, kind of a half-day seminar for nonprofits, and I'd love to have you be involved in that with the CRM type stuff. So
love to help.
All right, Buffy, what about you for the networking? I know you didn't get a chance to do much in your corporate career, but you kind of may be out now doing it. Do you have a story you can share?
Yeah, so probably one of our greatest networking stories is when the Afghan government fell. And we, through Outer Circle Foundation and use of our network, began evacuating our U.S. allies out of Afghanistan. Over the course of 2.5 years, we've probably helped support the evacuation of thousands of people out of Afghanistan. And probably our greatest story, or the one that is most known, is being able to evacuate the command sergeant major of the Afghan Elite Special Forces out of Afghanistan. It took us 2.5 years to get him into the United States. He arrived here in April of this year, and in September of this year, we were successful in bringing his wife and 3 children into the U.S.
That's awesome. He's a great man, too.
He is a great man.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
awesome. The true power of a network.
It is. Definitely. Todd, what about you?
How am I supposed to follow that? Come on. Well, my networks bring businesses together. So I love networking. It's such an important thing, and it's something that comes pretty natural to me. So I reach out on LinkedIn a lot to a lot of people. I think that's how I met Matt.
It is.
That connected me to Buffy, that connected me to Outer Circle and Sweet for Christ and some other great organizations. So if you get an invite to me to say, hey, let's connect, it's because I like to connect you with other people that might be able to help you once I know who you are, what you need, and what you do. So I love it. I think we're all connected, right? And I think it's very important for us to continue to work those networks so that in some case you might be using your network to evacuate people out of Afghanistan, or to find somebody that has a good platform that might help your business or charity out.
And actually, that's how you and we met, because Matt was at a networking event, met my buddy Bob Brooks, and Bob Brooks mentioned me, and I believe you reached out to me on Facebook.
That's right.
That's awesome. So, Todd, one more time, share how people get a hold of you in case they want to talk to you for your services.
Well, they can call me at 678-822-1691. Call or text, see if you can get me there. Otherwise, it's toddmasters.focalpointcoaching.com.
Awesome. And then the last thing, as we wrap this up, I always like to end this with you guys sharing a positive quote, word, nugget for the rest of 2023, which is only, 30-some days away, and the rest of their life with, I guess. So, Kimberly, give us your words of wisdom.
Practice, patience, and persistence.
Buffy?
Just be kind.
Todd?
Start every day with a positive thought, because your brain can only have positive thoughts or negative thoughts. So start off with positive.
Awesome. And as I mentioned, too, the thank you is a lost art these days. So, Kimberly, thank you for what you guys are doing for the community and with the animals. And please bring Rufus to the expo.
I will definitely bring Rufus
and
to
a
the
horse.
expo.
Yes. Yeah, if you can bring a horse, that'd be great, too.
Yeah, I can bring a miniature horse.
Buffy, thanks for what you and Matt are doing for the, especially the first responders and the veteran community. And Todd, thanks for what you're doing for the business community. And again, thank you for your service.
Thank you, Brian.
Everybody out there listening, let's remember, let's be positive, let's be charitable.